Okay, well, we will call the meeting to order. The first thing on the agenda is the prayer and then the Pledge of Allegiance. Scott, would you mind doing the prayer and then leading us in the pledge?
Yep. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we just thank you so much for this opportunity to be here today. We just thank you for who you are and for what you've done for each of us, Lord, as we seek you, Lord. Just give us wisdom, pour out your wisdom. Just thank you for our community, Lord. Just help us to serve them, Lord, as you see fit. Just pray that you would just be here in our midst this morning. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, do we have any, approval of the minutes from October 17th, 2022 regular meeting? You have those in your packet.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move approval of the minutes for our October 17 meeting.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I second.
Darla, will you do the roll, please?
Sordahl?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Durr?
Yes.
Berger?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes. Okay, do we have any petitions from the audience? Okay, we will go on to the next item, which is a report from Ms. Hawkins with the Chamber of Commerce. That's you.
We're the Christmas parade, which is the 1st of December, is early this year. And it's really filling up with entries. It's kind of interesting. We have a issue with it. We're going to have to sit down with the police and some others because with all of the building that has gone on now, it's taken away all the staging areas pretty much that we've always used. So we're going to have to use the streets more than, and probably just the north side, so we won't be crossing over Highway 20 as much. And we'll use the streets more for staging, which is a new thing for us that we're going to have to figure out. The Kauai Museum is totally reorganizing. It's a really kind of an exciting situation that's going on. It's going to be a lot of work for the community and also for the county. But it's reorganizing. Terry Lamar is now the president of it, and he's already been in working and kind of just seeing what all needs to happen. But also, this is the 40th anniversary of it. And so on the 20th, they're going to hold an open house just so people can get in and look at it, and hopefully we'll be able to round up some new members for the society and volunteers who want to become involved with it. And it'll be from 1:30 until 4 in the afternoon.
What was the date? Barbara, what was the date?
The 20th,
November 20th or?
November 20th. And the other thing that we were working on that is going is the Nativity Museum. They're in, and I don't know how they got it put together as quickly as they did and as organized as it is, but it's really nice, and we are reaching out now, going to get some press releases sent out to let people know. This year, because of the space, they're actually, if you go in and look at it, it's less than half of their entire collection. And so we'll see how it goes this year, and hopefully by next year be able to locate a space or do something so that they can get the entire collection in. And each set has a label on it that talks about the history of it, and there are over 40 different countries, I think, that they have nativity sets from. And I've got on and checked around, and it could become kind of big for us. It's the only one right now that I've been able to locate, not only in Oklahoma, but in surrounding states. So it'll be a good attraction for us.
Cool, thank you.
That's all.
Any questions for Barbara? Okay, thank you. There were none.
Thank you.
Okay, now the report from Main Street. Jenny?
Guys, so I know the last couple times it's been less of a report and kind of more working on the MOU. So this time I wanted to give an update on what we've done in the last month in an actual report form. So, we went to a Ponca City training. Well, it was in Ponca City, but it was a Main Street training that's mandatory. This was actually last week. And they cover a bunch of different stuff. Plus, it's always good to go and you get to see and hear from people that do the same thing you do, but all over the state of Oklahoma. And the topics were, we spent a whole day with grant writing training. They have some new accreditation standards that they went over. And then there were a couple other things. I remember one time you were telling me about the time frame app. I think that's what you saw. Mm-hmm. They had a whole class over that, so we got to see it in action in Newkirk.
Pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really, really cool. And so that's something that we want to, it's kind of like an augmented reality. It's not really VR, but it's augmented reality, and you can go, say, in our downtown, and you could stand exactly where the All Red was and have a photo of what it was originally, and like it's all on there, and you can fade in and out. It's really neat. So it's their hope with it is that it'll be a tourist attraction that people will just travel from place to place. And there's already 4 or 5 cities and towns in Oklahoma that have it. And so that's what they're planning to do with it, and it be similar to, how people travel for Route 66, but like a smaller version, in Oklahoma, that sort of thing. It's really, really neat. So we put that on our, to look at for, next year coming up. And then they also have, for the first time, a list, just kind of like a compromise list of what the state services are, which I feel like we've needed from them for a long time. But now they've actually put it out there, and then they're going to tweak it a little bit. And so that'll be nice to be able to give to our partners and say, because you're with us, these are things that are free to our community. And then leading into that, I'm also on an ad hoc committee for the Castle Theater, so I'm one of 5, and so we've been working with that. But one of the state benefits is that we can have an architect come, and it's free for our community as long as I fill out the report and they accept it, and they can basically do designs for what and they specialize in historical buildings, and they do these for main streets all over Oklahoma, but they could do designs based off of their recommendations of what they think is possible for the building based off of its structure and things like that. We were able to receive that, and he's coming Wednesday, so we're going to spend a few hours so he can go through the Castle Theater and just give us an outside perspective, but also, we're able to bring as an ad hoc committee the history and things that he might not know. Another thing that we've worked on that was kind of a quick turnaround is we've worked with the police department, and so for the first time ever, we're gonna have a big 18-foot paneled Christmas tree downtown. And so that's gonna go up. Our Lights On event is this Thursday, but we're gonna do a big countdown at 6 p.m. And it's gonna be outside the police and fire station that's still within our downtown district. So that's gonna be a super exciting thing coming. Main Street wrote a hotel motel grant with matching funds from the police department to be able to get that. So super exciting stuff for that. One thing leading into events, some of the events we've had in the last few months, we tried to kind of mix them where they fit in with our 4-point approach that I've spoke to you guys about before. So we've had a farm to table dinner. We're having our Lights On event. We had our fundraiser, Dancing with the Pryor Stars, which always brings a big crowd, and it's a lot of fun and really community building. We also have Shop Small Saturday coming up, and then we also try and do retail events, and we call them our shop mobbing, our mobbers. And so basically, we get a group together that after hours in a downtown shop, we'll go shop, and they promise to spend at least $20, and we see thousands of dollars come out per night when we do this. So we have 2 planned coming up, and we've also done one already within the last time that we've met. until now, and then it is our end of our year, and we actually do run off of a calendar year. Last time, I think I told you that it was June to July, but it's calendar year. And we are working on what we're calling partner reports, so that each partner we can sit down and be like, okay, with your investment to our nonprofit of $250, this is like what we've done, this is also what you've gotten out of it, and it be really personalized, based off of different events we have, the opportunities that they have, if they've received facade grants and things like that. So that'll be kind of a neat thing to be able to go to each person and just say, you know, this is what you're getting, reminder. You know, you see it throughout the year, but it's kind of like a wow factor if they see it all at once. Grants, or actually I'm going to do that last. Another thing, we put out the poinsettias downtown, and then for Veterans Day we put out the flags in those, and we'll have those up through Christmas. And then on grants, TSET is the same thing. Our report's done monthly, and we're just kind of waiting for a few things. The TAP grant, so we essentially applied to apply, you know, and we got that back, and they gave us feedback, and everything was looking great. And so we just have to do the final application, which is due the 30th of this month. And then we will learn, I don't think they announce them until April, I think. Is that what you've heard? Yeah, I think
not
it's,
sure.
yeah, I think it's April is when they announce those. But we did get a proposal from Planning Design Group who did our plans for construction documents, which that's where it's like line by line. And then now we can go to Jared and be like, okay, this is what they say. What does this look like for you? So now that we have the proposal and we can write it into the TAP, because it's, you know, a hefty price. It's 10% of the project cost essentially. And so we can write it into that grant, and then once we have those, we can start sitting down with you and the different partners. But until then, I'm not gonna waste anybody's time until we actually have real information that we can go off of. But that's my report for that.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Jenny
I
or
got
for
one
Main Street?
question.
Yep.
In Ponca City, did you go eat at the steakhouse called Rusty Barrel?
Yes, we did.
Is that not awesome?
Yeah, it was.
In the back alley, you're kind of like, it's kind
Yeah.
of sketchy when you go back
Yeah.
there. And it's awesome.
Yeah, our entire group went and ate, our entire Main Street group went and ate, and I looked at pictures before, because that's just what I do, and I was like, I don't know.
It's great.
Yeah, and then we get there, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this, yeah, it was a really awesome experience, so they have cool things, so, yeah, we did, it was a lot of fun, yeah.
I have a quick question, sorry,
Yeah,
Jenny.
that's okay.
Are we waiting for all that to happen to talk about wayfinding stuff, like to get those partners too? We're gonna wait, or,
We could I feel like we could get that going now, especially
Okay,
I
cool.
know that I read your email about like possible help with that.
Yes.
Because we know that, you know, Tracy's coming in.
Right.
I think this is more like construction, because I don't know,
Okay.
you know. I
Right.
think it's more like piece by piece, and
okay,
Jared probably knows more about like what would be in there than I would, but I think it would be helpful for like him and.
for
you
sure,
know,
okay.
that sort of thing, and for a construction project manager to have those and be like,
sure.
okay, we're in line. But I think, yeah, that's stuff we can do now in the meantime.
Okay,
So-
awesome.
And then
I was
April will
just
be here
curious.
before we know it. So,
Awesome, yeah, great work, that's so exciting, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, our next item is a report from Mr. Ritchie regarding his discussion with bond counsel, if you've had a chance to do that.
I have, yeah. I'm one short on these, so somebody can share. I'll get to that other end, I guess.
Here, I'll go make a copy real quick. While you're talking, it's okay.
So those chicken scratches in there are mine, and this goes along with the discussion that I had with our bond counsel. The bottom line is, he says that, the same thing I say, and that is that this language can be read two ways. And we have a general principle of law that says that courts generally will not interfere with the interpretation placed on an ordinance by the municipality, because it's the municipality's ordinance, unless it just doesn't make any sense, you know, if it's a nonsensical interpretation of it. But the question was, you know, what about funding coming from the tax that was passed through the Main Street corridor, just going to our Main Street organization at a certain amount per year? It would come from the city council to the EDTA, the EDTA would place those funds in the hands of Main Street. So the very first documents you get there is Main Street's articles, bylaws, the bylaws, and so it says that it's a not-for-profit formed to focus on preserving the city of Pryor's historic downtown, Highway 69, Elliott Street, and northeast First to southeast First. So that's our Main Street corridor. So that's fine. The next one is where we start getting into what does this language mean that's in the ordinance. And I've placed some brackets there in that highlighted text. And it indicates, talking about the 5% or the excise tax for that Main Street corridor. It says to create new jobs and retain existing jobs in the Main Street corridor of the city of Pryor Creek, Oklahoma. And then here's the critical language. By paying the costs incidental to and/or debt service on obligations issued to assist in the establishment of business and/or commercial facilities to be owned or used by said businesses or commercial entities or the city or public trust having the city as a beneficiary. So how do you read that? What's the intent? One way to read it, I've tried to illustrate that by brackets, is to say that we promote those jobs by paying the costs incidental to and/or debt service on obligations issued to assist establishment of business. Well, that would be a very broad thing that could be done. That's followed by and/or commercial facilities to be owned or used. So should it be read that way, or should it be restricted to just hard assets? Because it could be read that way too. And that would be to assist in the establishment of business and/or commercial facilities. So is it the establishment of business or the establishment of business and commercial facilities? If we read it the second way, it would be hard assets. It'd be facades and sidewalks and things like that. If you read it the other way, then it's consulting services, it's studies, it's grant writing, it's reporting. So then I look, okay, how did our ballot language, what was the language actually on the ballot? And it actually read just a little bit different than the ordinance. It left out that second section. The highlighted language there says, issued to assist in the establishment of business and/or commercial facilities. So again, do you read that as assist in the establishment of business and/or commercial facilities, or is it business and/or commercial facilities? So you got the same question there. So, you know, in my discussions with bond counsel, he said, you know, that can be read either way. So, you know, if you were going to take the absolute most conservative approach to it, then you'd be looking at hard assets. And he indicated, you know, if you just want to really be conservative and safe as you can be, well then all of the grant writing percentage payments are fine because that comes from grant funds. But insofar as payments outside of that made to Main Street, you'd want to address those individually, project by project, if you were going to be just super conservative in how you structured this thing. So, can't get it, I mean.
It's not a real clear,
What do you expect?
yeah.
I look at it and I kind of say the same thing. You don't really know. Thoughts, questions?
Who's the bond counsel?
Excuse me?
Who is the bond counsel?
If you hadn't asked me. Alan Brooks.
Alan Brooks?
Uh-huh.
Okay. He's the one out of Oklahoma. Oklahoma City.
The one that doesn't wear socks. That
The
was
one
man.
that
Does not wear socks.
The one what?
That doesn't wear socks.
Yeah.
He
Look
might-
at it, look at it.
He might be wearing them today.
No, you know, there's, I know that name.
And did you get an opportunity like to visit with Jeff Coker or anything like that and get his thoughts?
I didn't talk to Jeff about it.
Because, I mean, not only do you need to break down where you've issued, you've broken down with brackets, service and obligations issued to assist in establishment businesses, bracket, and/or, you have to look at the brackets above. How do you bracket, be made available to create new jobs and retain existing jobs in the Main Street corridor of the city by paying the cost incidental to bracket and/or debt service on obligations. Are those to be read together, or are those to be read separately?
I mean, frankly, I would not expect this group to make a decision like that. I would think that if you wanted to go any further with this, trying to pursue this course, that we'd take it to the city council and let the council make the decision on what the council's intent with that ordinance is.
Well, I would probably, I mean, me personally, I'm not speaking for this entire trust, would probably be something that would be a preference, simply because I think ultimately the monies are controlled by them. They're the ones elected by the people of Pryor. And it might be helpful, and I understand, you know, Mr. Brooks has given you conversation. It'd be nice if he'd given them something to have in writing to review, and perhaps probably get something from Jeff Coker too, to see what he says in writing, just to be ultra careful. And in matters of economics, I tend to probably be more conservative. And I just think it's best to get that from them and present it to them. And I understand we have the bylaws from Main Street. And I understand what it says, but still true, does it matter how still specifically those funds are going to be spent?
Absolutely. That's
And-
one of my notes was accounting is critical on this. You gotta trace that money. You
Right,
gotta
and-
maintain
And if it's
records on it.
And if it's accounting, if you have, that's why, you know, I say, okay, do we have specific, we know how specifically we're gonna spend it beforehand, well, then that's almost an accounting that can take place right now. Does that make sense? But if it's, we don't know, we may use it on different projects, then I think we're back to where somebody's gonna say, well, wait a minute, now you gotta examine that on a project-to-project basis before you spend that money to make sure it complies with this. That's why my question was, and I may not be making it clear, was, okay, specifically, how is the money going to be spent by you all?
And I do think on that, Jenny has a very good document that, that addresses that.
That'll probably be helpful, and maybe it's the one that was presented when I wasn't here,
It's in that packet.
but I would, you know, I wasn't, and so I would really, somebody hand it to me and say, here it is.
So here's what I think we should do. I think we should continue down this path. I think we've got some more questions that we can get answered from bond counsel and from Jeff, and formulate something to hand off to city council to get an understanding of how their feelings are on this. But I think in the meantime, these things that you're doing that we can help fund, the specific projects, you know, like the, I can't even read my own handwriting now, the time frame app. You know, I think those are things that definitely are downtown that we can help with funding as we're continuing on this process, and kind of go back to Fred's, you have a specific project, you need funding for that, we can help with that, request that funding from city council to the EDTA from that bond fund, and then on to you. So I think we can get there, just without, we've got to do some more stuff on this, because it is somewhat uncertain at this, unclear.
And it would be nice, and again, maybe it's just because I haven't seen it. I understand we've got it. I need to have somebody to hand it to me and say, this is what we're talking about, okay? Now, if that's on me, that's on me. But I wasn't here, you know, everybody's shaking their head. Maybe it is on me. But let's have a little cooperation. I'd like to see that. Maybe Adam can give it to me, because I haven't seen it specifically sitting here today. But I think that's important, because I think it's important to try to get to a direction if you can, so you don't have to look at everything on a activity by activity by activity.
Right. And I don't think that's what we want to do,
No, I
but
don't
I
think that's
think
what you wanna do either.
instead of dragging out them waiting for any kind of funding, we can move some of those things along. Yes, Christine?
Can I ask a quick question about?
Sure.
Can we not proceed with an MOU, at least for the grant writing pieces? Because the problem is that obviously there's timeframes involved in this. There's things that are happening elsewhere that are gonna feel the crunch of having to wait for this to go to the city council, get approved, come back to a meeting here, then probably do all this again, and, 6 months from now, we might get to see something in writing, and I'm not trying to be mean, but that's just the way it is. It takes time. However, other things can't wait for that 6 months. So, couple of things, we know that the grant writing is happening, and it's happening on behalf of the EDTA and Main Street both. So, either the EDTA pays someone to write their grants, or they take advantage of a shared service that's here, right? So I know you guys already know that, but there's gotta be some help on that. And it's just like this Castle Theater project that Jenny is spending hours on, and using Main Street, benefit to help with that. But those are hours, and I'm coming from a twofold position here. Not only am I on the board, but I'm also a partner. So it's taking her away to do these things and giving me less money for my time.
But
Does that make sense? So where is that compensation or help or, because it's a collaborative effort, but, we can only
however,
we can only put her in 1,000 different directions for so long.
to be clear though, she didn't write those grants on behalf of the EDTA. She wrote those grants on behalf of the city of Pryor.
Exactly.
Just like the EDTA had one opinion about the Castle Theater, and then the city asked her to join that ad hoc committee and go a different direction. That's the city that asked her to do it, not the EDTA. So, if we're gonna make some divisions there, that wasn't the EDTA that asked her.
Well, I think the division is that the fund, in my mind, just from an outsider looking at the trust indenture and my intention of the ordinance when I voted, was the fact that those funds are to go to the EDTA. They're meant to be economic development funds. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's the way I take it. And so with that said, that whole streetscape, grant writing, and everything was economic development, whether it was the EDTA that put that into the channel. I understand that.
But the problem with that
separation.
is, when you voted on that, the EDTA did not even exist.
No, I know. I
So it
understand
would be
that.
difficult for somebody to vote on it and say that's supposed to go to the EDTA, because it didn't even exist.
Economic development.
It did not.
And then, no, the EDTA did not exist, but economic development did exist. So then when the EDTA was created after that, it should either be funneled to the EDTA, or it should be set aside at the city of Pryor level for economic development. I would think and hope that the EDTA trustees would want those funds to go through them to do whatever their planning and mass
Okay, and do not
phase is,
take,
but that's just me.
don't take it from the standpoint that people don't want to have that happen. Don't take it from the standpoint that we don't want to see that happen.
Right.
But we need to see that happen properly and correctly and legally.
I understand.
And so sometimes those take time.
Right.
And I think progress has been made on it. And quite frankly, some of the things that he's talking about wanting to get, shouldn't take that long to get something in writing from bond counsel. Shouldn't take that long to get something from Mr. Coker. I think he's already aware of some of the issues, and I think he'd be willing to give something. Shouldn't take that long. We have specific items have to be spent to incorporate that actually into the MOU, and then present that to the city council to get authorization, and okay, yes, those expenses are in compliance with this bond issue that was passed and voted on. I think you're there.
So that was my only question, really, all that was, if you did not think, or if you thought we should move along with the portion of the MOU that you do agree on at this point, and then you could amend that later. That's really my question.
But I don't
If you
think there's-
it'll be that fast, then,
I don't think there's any portion of the MOU that we 100% agree on, because we're unclear about whether, in the current language, we can encumber those funds
okay.
and then give out, because I think there is also some understanding that what you would be paid out of, for writing those grants, is coming from those grant funds and not from the bond fund. And if, my interpretation is you're asking for it to come from the bond funds, not for it to come from the grant funds. Am I right?
Most grants don't pay someone to do any of that. That's something
Right.
that's paid by the.
So if we're paying for the grant writing ability, we still have to make sure that we can
That makes sense.
encumber those funds.
Okay,
But
that makes sense.
I don't intend to let this just continue to drag out. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Jenny, but I think we've made substantial progress in getting some understanding about the EDTA's role and function. And that's been really in the last, 90 days, maybe 6 months, to try to force this along. Ideally, we would have it done by the end of the year, understanding there's some, dates in there, and I don't think anybody on this group is opposed to a special session to help push this along and not go a month. We've already done that to get some monies to some of the groups in the city. So that almost sounds like we should table this and get some additional information for the next meeting. Would that be acceptable, or
You can table it, or you can
just move on to
ask
the
to
next?
move it on to the council and let the council give you their input on it. I mean, the council might put the kibosh on it. And they might say, no, that's what we meant, so.
Yeah, that's why, I just can't encourage enough would go to them to have something in writing from Mr. Brooks and something from Mr. Coker that I think would help tremendously.
If Alan will put that in writing, be happy to do that.
So Mayor, can I work with you and Mr. Ritchie to have something ready to have to the next?
Absolutely.
I'm not willing to put it in writing.
It's gonna say it can be read either way.
But
Maybe.
Such a way, though, if you read it this way, if you still have something in writing that says, okay, we have something from bond counsel that said that.
I agree.
And he should be willing to put that in writing, I would think.
So that gave us number 6. Number 7, we've discussed, and we're going to move past. Number 8, discussion and possible action regarding recommendation to the mayor for reappointment of Fred Swordall and Don Berger to the EDTA, new terms beginning 1/1/23 and ending 1/1/27. If we could get a motion or a discussion on that, please.
I'll make the motion that we approve recommending to the mayor the reappointment of Mr. Swordall and Mr. Berger for the new terms as specified in the agenda.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Ms. Darla, if you would do the roll, please.
Williams,
Yes.
Durr,
Yes.
Moore, he's not here, I forgot to mark that off, sorry. Berger,
I vote for myself.
you can if you want.
Okay.
Miller,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Swordall.
I almost feel like it's a yes on Don and an abstention on me, so. Can we have split votes?
Okay, our next item is a review of the financial report from Mayor Lees.
Finances have not changed since we reported last time. Those remain the same.
Okay. Economic update, Mayor.
The economic updates are that we've got an ad hoc committee looking at Castle Theater, and I call that economic development anytime we have those discussions, and they're moving along and making progress. The different areas around town that are being developed and being planned for housing are continuing to move right along. some of the, if you notice, some of the building permits and keep track of some of those. We continue to have building permits in town with our infill work. The Meadows at Stone Gate moving right along north of town. The apartments that are being built out on 69A, that is charging forward. And Mid-America Industrial Park, in cooperation with Municipal Utility Board and the city, all those things are moving forward, and all those things are positive. I'd be happy to field any questions y'all might have.
Any questions for Mayor? Okay, Jared, any economic updates?
Not really, just visited with Dustin with North Star Church. They're looking for anybody that's got some space. They need a building for like 2 or 3 months for them to do their Christmas stuff. He told me every time he uses like one of Taylor's that they use it for 2 or 3 months and then it ends up being leased out after they get done. So if you know of anybody that's got any space, you might reach out to him.
Is he looking for a space in a particular area?
No, he's just looking for space. Just anywhere in Pryor, if anybody's got a building or whatnot, that they can allow to be used, pay for 2 or 3 months, you know, for them to do their Christmas stuff, because they do a lot of that stuff for the Mays County.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, our next item is discussion and possible action regarding an expenditure to order checks for EDTA account. There is some copies of some checks and some pricing in here. I do think if we're going to spend some money, we probably need checks for that. It's kind of a matter of opinion whether you want the 3-part checks as a banker. There's some benefit to having them in a binder, or you can buy the one that's just a book that's $45. I would recommend that we go with the cheapest ones we can get that will work for the city's need, and there's no reason to spend, $150 or $200 on specialty checks. And I asked Darla to check with Eva about if she had a preference, and I don't believe that she did.
She didn't, she kind of left it to me, so whatever you guys want.
So which one are you recommending?
There's neither one's in that, just like
Neither
your
one.
regular personal
Oh.
checks. But you can get those for, probably
I
$45.
think we will have to have 3 signature lines on them, but other than that, it's totally up to you guys.
So are we just good going with the cheapest ones that will do the 3 signature lines?
Those cash as well as the others, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Dude.
You can write a check on anything you want to, as long as it has a routing number and an account number on it. You don't have to have money. That is,
To write the check, you don't need to.
I don't know, that's a really good statement to make for Bank of Commerce. So I don't know,
I don't want to get in trouble for other things, so I'll just stop there.
I'd like to,
Inundated this afternoon.
I'd like to know what those fees are.
That's the part I'm not going to talk about. So if we can get a motion to order checks at the cheapest option that will satisfy the city's needs.
I so move.
I'll second that.
Okay, Darla, if you do the roll.
Durr,
Yes.
Berger,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Swordall,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Okay, is there any unforeseen business? Seeing none, that we can move for an adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Darla, the roll, please.
Mr. Berger, second.
Mr. Williams, or did Merger?
I think it was Fred.
Oh, sorry, okay. Berger,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Swordall,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Durr.
Yes.
Okay, we're adjourned.